All right, welcome back to Level 6 Math. I'm Mr. C, and today we're going to look at Lesson 29 in our Saxon Math. This is multiplying fractions and reducing fractions by dividing by common denominators, or common factors rather. We're going to multiply fractions by fractions, whole numbers by fractions. We're going to reduce fractions and use a few different ways to do that. This is an incredibly helpful lesson. This is going to make math a lot easier for you once you learn how to do this. Math is going to be way easier. All right, so here we see that we've shaded a circle 1/2 of 1/2. So we took 1/2 of the circle, that's this big bold thing, and then we split a line down the middle, that's why it has a dotted line, to find 1/2. So 1/2 of 1/2 is just this shaded area, which is 1/4. When we find 1/2 of 1/2, we're actually multiplying. We're doing 1/2 times 1/2, and that equals 1/4, because 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 2 is 4. Now when we added and subtracted numerators, we would have the denominator the same. Here when we're multiplying and dividing, we actually are going to multiply the denominator in addition to the numerator. So there's a big difference between multiplying numbers and adding fractions, okay? Multiplying fractions and adding fractions. So here we have a fraction that's 1/2 of 3/4. So first we take 3/4, this big bolded area, and then we just divide it in two with this line in the middle, and we see this is the shaded area, which is a little more than 1/4. Actually, if we put this all into eighths, we can see it's 1, 2, 3/8. But the easier way to do this is just simply multiply 1/2 times 3/4. So we just line this up. 1 times 3 is 3, 2 times 4 is 8, 3/8 is our answer. So this one's a lot easier just to calculate the answer by multiplying it than by using manipulatives or trying to visualize it that way. That's actually kind of tricky, but it can be helpful if you're like, am I way off? Well, I can check my work by drawing it out. All right, so multiplying 3/4 by 2/3, we just do 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 3 is 12. Now 6/12, they're both even. So we have a new thing to do here. We take our 6/12, and a fraction 6/12 can be reduced to 1/2. Now we're going to teach you a way to reduce that hopefully will make this a little easier in your mind. So a whole number can be written as a fraction by writing the whole number as a numerator of the fraction as 1 and a denominator of the fraction. So for example, a whole number 2 can be 2/1. A whole number 12 can be 12/1. A whole number of 7,000 can be 7,000/1. Okay? So when we multiply, we're going to just change that 4 to 4/1. So 4 times 2 is 8, 1 times 3 is 3, 8/3 will be our answer. Okay? So not too tricky, you just have to kind of remember any whole number, you can put a 1 under it. We can convert that fraction 8/3 back to a mixed number, making it 2 2/3. Alright? If we have a more concrete example, each penny is 3/4 inches wide, what's the total? We can do 3/4 times 3, but remember 3 is 3/1, so we'd rewrite that as, first they're going to show we can just add it, 3/4 plus 3/4 plus 3/4. 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9, and if we're adding, remember you can keep the denominator the same, which would be fourths. 9/4 is the same as 2 1/4. But in multiplication, we can just do 3/4 times 3, 1, 2, 3, and do it that way. 3/1 times 3/4 is 9/4 inches. Easy peasy. All right. Now here's the part I talked about earlier. This is going to make your life a lot easier. To reduce fractions by dividing the numerator and denominator by a factor of both numbers. So remember earlier we had 6/12. We can divide that by the numerator and the denominator because they're both a factor of 6. So we can divide 6 divided by 6 is 1, 12 divided by 6 is 2. Now there are other factors in this number that are the same. 3 goes into 6. So we can divide 6 divided by 3 is 2, 12 divided by 3 is 4, so 2/4, which still reduces to 1/2. The way that you save steps on this is you go to the greatest common factor, which in this case is 6. But you could divide it by 2, you could divide it by 3, any of those factors will help reduce it. But if you want to reduce it all the way, you find the greatest common factor. Okay? So we don't want to get 3/6, we want to get to 1/2, and we'll do that by finding the greatest common factor, which is 6. So the factor 3/6 can be reduced by dividing by the numerator and denominator. So here, 3/6, the greatest common factor is 3, so 3 divided by 3 is 1, 6 divided by 3 is 2. It takes 2 or more steps to reduce fractions if we don't divide by the greatest common factor. So here, if we had 4/6 and we divide it by 2, that gets us 2/3. That doesn't show an example of that. That's something else. Reducing fractions, we better read this. Find the number that will evenly divide both the numerator and the denominator. Even is 2, so that's what they're doing there, is simply dividing 4/6 by 2. Here we'll reduce what's the greatest common factor. Well, a factor of 8 is 1, 2, 4, and 8. The factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. The greatest of both of those would be 4, because 4 can go into 8, 4 can go into 12. So if we divide 8 divided by 4 is 2, 12 divided by 4 is 3, so we get 2/3. Is that right? Better check my work here. They said, well, method 1 is not the greatest common factor. They just divided by 2 because they're both even. And often I'll just divide it by 2 several times over until I get down to that smallest number. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, 12 divided by 2 is 6, and that gets you your 2/3. But you can also just divide both by 4 like I did, and that also gets you to 2/3. So if you can find the greatest common factor and divide by that, it's going to save you time. Either way, it reduces to 2/3. It just saves you a step if you can find the greatest common factor. Multiplying 2 times 5/12, well, we know we can just change that to a 2 over 1. 2 times 5 is 10. 1 times 12 is 12, so 10/12, but that reduces because they're both even numbers. So we're going to reduce by 2 or divide by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 12 divided by 2 is 6, so our final answer is 5/6. I know I went through that kind of quick, so let me just leave this up for a second. 2 times 5 is 10, 1 times 12 is 12. Divide each of those by 2, and we reduce it to 5/6. Finally, let's review some ratio problems. There are 8 boys and 12 girls in class. What's the ratio of boys to girls? So boys would be first, because it says ratio of boys to girls. So boys would be the top number, girls would be the bottom number. 8 to 12, we can reduce 8/12. So we have 8/12 here. That reduces. The greatest common factor here is 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So again, we're looking for that greatest common factor when we're reducing. And that's it. This is a harder lesson. Reducing is not easy because finding that greatest common factor, you either have to write out all the factors and find the greatest one, or it just takes a lot of practice in knowing, oh yeah, the greatest common factor of 8 and 12 is going to be 4 because 4 goes in both those numbers and it's the biggest number. So it's going to take practice, but this is not too hard. It's just going to take some time. All right, good luck. Bye.